All right, everybody, welcome to another show, Hawkeye. Good to be back. It's been a while since we've recorded. We're moving on today to our cornerbacks. Mark will be joining us. Again, I haven't seen him in quite a while. His hair has grown back since the last time that we had our show. I see that they don't have any barbershops open up in Fairport.
No, man, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Doing all right. Everything is going well in New York, and we're, hopefully going to move into another phase where we can begin to start moving forward with opening up. We'll see what Cuomo does next, but we're doing very well in terms of COVID numbers in New York, and everything is going well, just like everybody else. We're trying to get back to some normalcy.
Awesome. Good to hear, man. Good to see you, and I'm excited about tonight's show. I know we took a little bit of a hiatus, guys, and we've been talking as much as we can, planning for, trying to do our best to continue to evaluate, New York State prospects the right way. And we believe that what Brian and we've built here with this particular show, we think this is, a quality program for helping not only to illuminate, a prospect, but also to bring some awareness to the space of player evaluation. So it's a shout out to Brian. It's a shout out to Dan Hatman at the Scouting Academy. Huge thank you to those guys, and also Alex Hanowitz. So thank you to you guys for all that you guys have done to help bring us along on the ride. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to those guys.
All right, awesome, man. All right, man, let's get it on, man. First player up, Dante Antoine, class of 2021 out of St. Anthony's in Long Island. 6 foot, 175 pounds. In terms of body type, lean frame, quick, light feet. Kid has a nice, smooth back pedal. We'll see him right here. I love that he had a special teams play.
Yes.
For his first play. That's very rare. We don't see that a lot, but you can see this kid has a lot of athleticism, shows really, really good reactive athleticism as a cornerback. Eyes are looking inside, as soon as the QB gets his arm in motion. He's got, excellent, able to put his foot in the ground and transition, shows he can come up or come to balance, especially when he's making a tackle. That's one thing that I look at corners in the open field is their ability to come up. You'll see him right here, makes an excellent play on the ball. You can't teach that stuff when it comes to ball skills. It's similar to basketball. You got to have a certain ability to have an innate ability to make plays on the football when they're in the air. And I don't think you naturally can coach that. Gives everything on every single play. Again, we're seeing here a couple of special teams plays where it's rare to see that. You see him right here, another great play on the ball, puts his foot in the ground, is able to transition. And then we'll watch another couple of plays here. You see right there, excellent. Making that play in the open field, I believe that was against Cardinal Hayes. They got a lot of kids that are athletic. I love seeing cornerbacks being able to tackle in the open field. It's great if you can cover, but you have to be able to come up in open space, coming up one-on-one, and you don't got to necessarily make a highlight tackle. You'll see this play. Oh, this is one of my favorites, and I noticed this. Wow. Being able to chase down from the open. That tells a recruiter right there that this kid is not going to give up on a play, and I actually had that as a note here. Chases down a player from the backside to save a TD. You don't see kids put that on tape, and I love the way that he was able to show that. I'm gonna, we do have a season. I hope I can, see this kid play live, and just really excited about him as a player. You got any thoughts, Mark?
I mean, I love watching him compete. First of all, we found him because of Nick Alvarado. Nick Alvarado is his teammate, right? And we had Nick Alvarado last year at the Power 50, and Nick, reached out to us. Usually, a head coach reaches out to us at some point, but Nick reached out to me relatively quickly after the Power 50, said, "Hey, I got a teammate that's plays hard, really good athlete. I think he deserves a shot at being just evaluated." That's all he said. And I have a huge appreciation for Nick for that, because watching Dante is his competitive toughness is through the roof. He goes hard on every play. He's tough to beat. He's making tackles for a loss on run plays, on quick screens. As you see, he's making plays in special teams. He's physical. I like the energy he shows after the play. He's celebrating with his teammates. Dante, I wish him the best. I think he's gonna find a nice home at the college level.
Awesome. All right, let's move on. Next up that we have is Javon Batten out of Erasmus Hall in Brooklyn, New York. Now, we've had several Erasmus Hall players that we featured. You know, a couple of kids that they have transferred, one being Sebastian Sager, who we featured earlier with our linebacker group. But they're just always loaded with talent. You know, Javon is a class of 2021, 6'3", 185. He'll line outside as a corner and as a safety in a two high shell. I think he has a lot of positional versatility to be able to play, you know, both on the outside and as a safety, although he might project as a safety. Like I said before, long frame, solid quickness for a player with his length. A lot of guys that are leggy, you typically won't see them move into the slot. You typically will see guys that have shorter legs, and those are things that are important. You're a long leg corner. It's very rare that you have that lateral quickness to be able to cover those quicker guys in the slot. Good reactive athleticism and awareness in zone coverage. You'll see him here make a play on the ball. Good ball skills. Uses his hands well when engaged with a blocker. Has good range. That's very important for a corner, especially if you're a single high safety corner. Sure. And you got to be expected to run, you know, not sideline to sideline, but you got to be able to make a play on the ball and overlap that wide receiver and get over the top. And that's very difficult. There are very few players that can do that. I think he ends up as a safety that will be able to come down into the box. But if he ends up putting on significant weight, again, he's 6'3", he's 185 pounds. He's not going to look like this. I've said this time and time again, that because we see a player like him right now, he may have genetically the ability to pack on pounds and could potentially grow into an outside backer. But just a phenomenal talent, and really looking forward. You'll see him right here come up and come to balance. I keep on repeating that. I love corners that can come up, whether or not it's a safety, it's a must. But if you're playing on the outside and you have the ability to come up and run support and be able to make tackles in open space and come to balance and break down, what coaches like to use as terminology for that, and make a tackle, you're going to be a valuable football player. He is a Division I player. I don't like projecting, and we've talked about this before, where do we think the player is going to land? That's not our jobs to do that. No. But if I'm a Division I coach, not going to say whether or not it's Power 5, Group of 5, or FCS, he can play at the Division I level. It's going to be up to those coaches, the recruiters within that department, the DPP, to decide on which level we go. But I think he can play at the Division I level. Mark, any thought?
I mean, his ability to diagnose and anticipate from the secondary position to make a play on the football with his reach, his length, and athleticism is pretty special. He's making a lot of plays in the football. So anytime you got a guy who can break on a ball, bat it down, break up a pass, force an incompletion, or even intercept the ball like he can, he's a player that you want on the defensive side of the ball. Let's go back to that. I love defensive backs. Okay. There's a lot of guys out there that want to be recruited as wide receivers. They all want the ball. And just the fact that he wants to play defensive back, all these guys are on this list that want to play defensive back. I have a slight bias toward, defensive linemen, defensive backs. They got a little edge to them. They're competitive. They're super, they want to win those battles, those one-on-one battles. So I think he's one of those guys wherever he projects. But I definitely think he's going to land on a college roster.
Yeah, I agree as well. All right, let's move forward. Next up is Rafael Fasolino, 2021, 6'1", 175 pounds. I've heard a lot about this kid, and coaches that have spoken about him have the one thing that stands out with him that I've heard time and time again from guys that have seen him play is his competitive toughness. I didn't mention this. He's another one of our players at our Archbishop Stepinac.
Yep.
6'1", like I said, 175. Solid transition ability and closing speed. We'll take look at a couple plays here. A good ability to flip his hips back, which is pretty difficult for a corner to be able to do that when you're in one direction and you got to flip them back the other way. You can see, boom, excellent closing speed, being able to put his foot in the ground and come up and make a tackle.
Tackle for a loss.
Yeah. Doesn't waste a lot of steps. Boom, look at this hustle right here. You love to see that and to be able to have a corner, and he causes a turnover there. Never give up on a play. Never, ever give up on a play. I think he's going to wind up as a safety. You can see him right here. Good speed turn right there. They're coached really well there. Coached really well. He opens up a man turn, and then he does a speed turn. Excellent. I know. Physical kid, and he has the frame.
Yep.
Has the frame right here. Good ability to change speeds. And you'll see him right here drop off. And this is the one thing, good, excellent job being able to wrap up. You see a lot of guys come up like that, and they try to make a tackle, and they slip. Wide receivers will typically slip off. Those are things that I pay attention to. This kid, again, has good ball skills and competes every single play. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this matchup that I saw on Twitter with him versus Kuno Mendez, who is our one of our wide receiver selections and led New York State in receiving yards, that they're saying that that's a matchup that we want to look at. You know, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully when I know the schedules are out that we can see those match up, but that is a highly anticipated. You'll see him make another tackle right there. I love corners that can come up. Absolutely. But as I was saying, I'm looking forward to that matchup, and fans and coaches have been hyping it up that they can't wait to see these guys go against each other. But, you know, again, this kid, I have not heard anything negative, and all of the coaches that I've spoken to in Section 1 are like, this kid is a dude. He plays hard, and he's a competitor.
I mean, Brian, he seems to love the game. He's very active on social media. You know, he does the right things. He seems to be putting in a tremendous amount of time into strength training specifically, and it shows, right? He's got a good frame on him. He obviously is a very good tackler. He doesn't miss many tackles, and he's physical. You know, the position that he plays, defensive back, again, I love the fact that he wants to play on the defensive side of the ball, and I think he's got a home at the college level. Someone's going to find him a place on the roster. Seems like a great prospect.
Awesome. All right, let's move on. Next up, we have is Chris Fields. Chris is another. I mean, you'll notice with all of these guys, I mean, all of these corners, these secondary guys that we are talking about are all 6 foot or taller. At least they list themselves as that, because we didn't have our showcase and couldn't verify it. But Chris is another one of these big corners. I remember when I first saw him, and I sent you, I think there were a couple of highlights I sent, and you're like, wow, who's this kid? I mean, you'll see him. He has an ability to put his foot in the ground. There's a couple of plays here. I hope it's on his highlights that I saw, but has the ability to put his foot down and make a play. Overall body type, long, lean frame, solid transition ability. He can close quickly to transition and break on the ball. Good overall ball skills that we saw in the numerator. This is the play right here where I was just like, you're seeing that 6'3" and being able to break on the ball. Those are kind of, if he is legitimate 6'3", it is very hard when you have when you are long limb like that to put your foot in the ground. You'll see him come up again, and there was that transition ability that I was like, wow. Normally you'll see kids like that get stuck or they're kind of stiff. He really has good quickness or transition ability to put his foot in the ground and then break on the ball. I don't know, where he's going to land again. With that frame, he could obviously add weight. Definitely could be one of those kind of nickel hybrids where he comes comes in and can play multiple positions. You can clearly, once he puts on weight, you'll be able to put him down in the box. And if he does have enough weight, he'll be able to handle himself down there. But just, you'll see him here. He plays wide receiver as well. He was one of my favorite players that I watched, that I was like, the showcase would have really helped him a lot. I think he's going to play college ball. I don't like talking levels. There is no way that he is going to be any lower than the Division II level. Now, if he winds up at the D2 level, he could play at a really, really top program. I also think that he could probably end up at the FCS level. But again, one of my favorite players to watch. And, you know, I love seeing big corners, and we definitely had a lot of big corners. Your thoughts, Mark?
I mean, Brian, I love this kid. I mean, Chris Field has two things that I really like. He's got the physical attributes that you like, and he has that moxie. He wants to smack people from the defensive backfield. He's dropping guys left and right. Love the physicality of the way he plays the game. And if you really – we didn't get the chance to test him, but – you look at his wingspan and his actual size. His head coach is the one who reached out to us, you know, a long while back. But he had the similar things to say about him. Physical kid, big, long, and just
that right
there.
Bring that play. Can you bring that play back?
I'm going to try.
Yeah, see if you can bring. They're just something. Yeah, bring that one back right there. Watch this right here. But you see him put his foot in the ground. I mean, there's no go back one more time, just one more time. There were certain plays, and again with highlights that I'm just like, I don't know. There, every once in a while, I see a play where a kid.
I might have missed it.
I think it's the one after this.
All right,
after this, just let it play, and just watch him put his foot in the ground, and then boom, and he just comes out. Those are plays that you're just like, for a kid that's his size.
Yeah.
Just
that's 1980 stuff, 1990 stuff, man. That's old school throwback kid who has zero fear of contact. He wants contact. I like this guy. I like Chris a lot.
Yeah, I really do. Was really excited about seeing him at the showcase.
No
All
doubt.
right, moving on. Next up, we have Keith Jackson. Keith is our first corner that's underneath, 6 foot. Listed at 5'11", 180 out of South Park High School in Buffalo. South Park had one of our players, Marquand Fluid, who's received a couple of offers recently. That's the same school as him up in Buffalo. Incredible all-around athlete. We have a lot of we had several players that just seemed, when you watch them on tape, that they were just doing everything. Special teams, they were on offense, they were on defense. Quickness and the ability to make people miss, and plays on both sides of the ball. And we'll take a look at his highlights here.
All right, now we're good.
So yeah, like I said, just exceptional overall quickness. This kid has the ability to make people miss, and really was a Swiss Army knife for this.
He's one of the best athletes in the state. There's no doubt about it. He's one of the top overall athletes in the state, and I think if we had the chance to test him, he would have been able to prove that.
Yeah, I know. You'll see him here. He's playing running back here. Just excellent quickness. You can see just the elusiveness.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, he's special.
I mean, let me tell you something. New York does not, in my opinion, do a good enough job at highlighting the overall level of talent in the state as a whole, right? New York City has its talent. Westchester County and some of the the CHSAA has its talent, but we need to do a better job. Overall, the depth of talent in this state, I think, is just completely underestimated. You can see he makes another explosive play here at running back, and we had him again. He plays a lot of these plays right here, him playing offense, but just defensively, when you see him at cornerback, he does look like a natural corner. Smooth back pedal, great transition speed. Clearly here he has just playmaker ability, and when he gets the ball in his hands, he can score from anywhere on the field. And that some of the opponents that they play up against, Mark, you would know better than me. You can see I mean, I would have loved to test him. I mean, clearly his play speed is as fast as anybody that we've seen. I mean, we know Xavier Lee is probably one of the faster players out of the group that we had, but you can't really poo-poo on his game at all. I mean, this kid is a playmaker.
Keith Jackson would have wowed everyone in that building if we had the chance to test him. I saw him play Canandaigua, very physical team from the Finger Lakes area. It was a great game. But overall, watching his tape, Coach Delaney, huge credit to their program out there in the Buffalo area. He advocates for his players, but this Keith is in that short area. He's almost untouchable. And if you notice those little battles that take place, he's just untouchable. And you look at him break on a football to make a play from the secondary. I don't know where colleges want to use him. Just find a way to get him on your roster. Yeah,
I know. He is slippery.
Yeah,
just slippery. You can't. It's very hard to get him wrapped up, and he can do that in short down and distances with short yardage situations. Excuse me, and just can do it all over the field. I mean, I watch him. You see his putting. Really reminds me. I don't like making comparisons to NFL players at all, but just has a Shady McCoy, a LaShawn McCoy type running style. I'm not trying to say him, but
he's so slippery in that little short area where you just think, okay, it's a given, it's a 4-yard loss, whatever it is. I don't know how many highlights he put up as a punt returner, as a kick returner, but the ability to make people miss in space like that. You're a secondary player. You're trying to make a college roster. Maybe even he's a walk-on somewhere, and he can catch a couple punts, in practice and in spring ball, whatever it is. He'll turn heads. And I hope he continues to work really hard for his high school coach out there and for his team, because he's going to have a heck of a senior year.
Awesome. All right, let's move on, man. Next up, we have is Trevor Knapp out of Victor High School. 5'11", 180 pounds. Solid overall athlete. He has the ability to. One of the things I look for is your ability to track and close on a ball carrier, which he showed on tape. You'll see him here again. I mean, this is him. Obviously, these highlights of him are on offense, and that's the one thing about New York is like you see these kids. Typically down south, you're playing on one side of the ball. I mean, this kid can hit. I don't know, for 180 pounds, and we don't know whether or not he actually weighs 180, but he plays like he's 200 pounds.
That's his brother throwing to him. They're built. They're very well built guys. They can play the game. They're stout.
Yeah, just one of his strengths is just tackling, tackle after tackle. I mean, he is not afraid to put his nose in and make a tackle. It doesn't matter. Another one right here. I mean, you just love to see a kid that can come up and make a play, and especially I think this is on special teams as well. Wow. See that play right there?
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's a competitive toughness grade. If you had to grade him out of an 8-point scale, he's an 8. Competitive toughness. He's in so many plays at Victor with Coach Mandel, blue collar town, playing hard, and he's just in the mix. He's in the mix. I saw him, Brian, at the New York State High School Football Coaches Association Combine 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and we ran the laser time 40. We did the whole bit, okay, and I helped them run it. And he was a standout, clearly in the top 10 at the entire thing. He was a sophomore going into his junior year, and even then you could see he had that frame on him and that twitch and that power. So not surprised at all that he made this list.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Mike Maxwell out of East High School in Rochester, which always has a lot of talent. I love watching that basketball team. They have some explosive players there. Mike's listed at 5'11", 165 pounds.
Spectacular prospect.
Yeah, I describe just electric all around athlete. This kid is just slippery, can make plays pretty much everywhere on the field. You'll see him right here. I mean, look at that excellent concentration and ball skills to be able to catch the ball at its highest point. You'll see him right here, close on the ball carrier. I'd like to see him wrap up there. But you're going to make a kill shot like that, you better make sure you make a tackle.
Well, he did, though.
Yeah, he did.
He's got some hip torque.
Yeah, he definitely does.
Here's a special teams highlight for you, Brian.
Yeah. I love when players put this on. I mean, wow, look at that physicality. And I mean, he lists himself at 165 pounds. I mean, that was a great play right there. I love the little guys that can play physical and aren't afraid to get hit. And you'll see this right here. Just what a move right there. Puts his foot in the ground. There's no way he should score here.
Nope.
Wow. I mean, this is just wow.
Coach Flagler and Coach Van, the head coaches, the co-head coaches at East High School, you know, they do a phenomenal job. They're building a great program, and they speak very highly of Mike Maxwell and how hard he works and the talent that he is. And it's clear as day. I mean, what a good frame. He's playing all over the field, making plays on defense, special teams, on offense, and he stands out. He's a standout athlete. Just really fun to watch. Brian, what else you seen out there?
Nothing, just, you know, a couple of highlights that I saw is just his ability again to flip his hips and close on receivers. You'll see him right here, zone turn,
high pointing that ball.
Yeah, and high points the ball. I mean, this kid. Some kids, like I say, you watch them play cornerback, and they don't have kind of a feel of being able to time the ball when it's in the air. And some kids have it, right?
Yeah.
And he may benefit. Sometimes that's why a lot of players benefit from playing wide receiver, because essentially when you are playing cornerback, you want to turn yourself into a wide receiver.
Absolutely.
But from the defensive side of the ball. And I think a lot of the players that we see that go both ways, that are playing wide receiver and defensive back, they have that wide receiver in them because they're playing that position. And when they are playing defense, they turn themselves into a wide receiver when they're tracking the football and breaking on the ball. But, you know, East has a ton of talent, and I would have been excited to see him in person at the showcase.
I think you bring up a really important point. I mean, you'll see some coaches, gurus by position, right? A quarterback's coach, wide receivers coaches, defensive backs coach. If you want to be the best wide receiver that you can be, you got to go to your defensive backs coach at your school, right? Your defensive coordinator, learn your scheme. But if you do have a coach, a private coach that is trying to help you out, go to the wide receivers coach. Spend some time with the receivers. Learn exactly what it is they're doing to gain leverage on you. Then go to your defensive backs coach. You want to be a true artist. You want to be a true, you want to reverse engineer the position. You've got to see it from both sides. So Brian, you bring up a great point. And he's doing that by experience. So forget the offseason stuff. He's doing that in game, which is something to love about high school football.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let's move on. Next up, we have is Riley Simpson, class of 2021. He's listed at 5'10", 180 pounds. I didn't put the shorter guys near the end on purpose. It just so happened that the guys that were 6 foot or taller came that way, but I noticed. Riley's, again, 5'10", 180 pounds at a Canisius in Buffalo state championship this year over Cardinal Hayes in the Bronx. Compact frame, smooth, quick feet. You see that right there. We'll see a couple of highlights. Has range and anticipation. We haven't talked a lot about that. I don't think you can coach anticipation. I mean, I think you can watch film and see what your opponent does to help you play faster. Excellent high point on the ball. But he just seems to naturally be able to anticipate plays, whether it's coming up and defending a run or in the pass. Natural hands, can come downhill and fit in the run game. You'll just see right here, this kid really can come up. And he, again, for a kid if he's really 180 pounds, he's a solid 180 pounds. You'll see him make a play on the ball right there. But, love his ability to close and to just make tackles in the open field. I think this is another play right there. You'll see him being able to come to balance. That's just an exceptional tackle.
He delivers the blow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just they use him everywhere on the field.
Yeah.
You'll see him right here as a receiver right now. I mean, that's a heck of a play right there. He's just a playmaker. I love when the kids from New York that are able to play both ways
Yeah.
and show a recruiter, hey, I can do this. You'll see that this is one of my favorite plays. Watch him come down here.
That needs to be played again because that was a spectacular play.
Just bring that back. Bring that back. Hold on. Bring it back and pause it.
Look at where he starts.
Hold
he
on.
starts 18 yards back. He's like a punt returner.
So that is 5, 10, 15. So he's about 15 yards.
This is awesome.
Ball. Now play that and let's see where he makes the tackle. I mean,
3-4 yard gain, maybe.
Got about a 2 or 3 yard gain, and he's coming downhill from 15 plus yards out. That was one of the most, again, high points to the ball. Yep. There were just plays here that you were like, wow, okay, wow, this kid is a playmaker. I mean, that's wow. And this, I believe this is in the state title game against Cardinal Hayes. Excellent tackle in the open field. Just tough kid. Very tough kid.
He's a coach's son. He's got the pedigree. His father's a Division I coach out at Buffalo, and it's clear as day he understands the nuances of the game more than most high school athletes by the way he plays. It's hard to say, as a college coach, where they're going to, recruit him. Is it going to be wide receiver at 5'10"? Is it going to be defensive back? I like his size, like his frame, love his awareness for the game, his football instincts, the FBI score that you hear about.
He is clearly coached well,
yes.
And just that time and time again is able to take excellent angles to the ball carrier and bring the ball carrier down. No waste. I mean, you don't see any missed tackles from this kid is all. He's an excellent tackle and can come downhill and consistently makes plays. I mean, this kid is just so impressive. They got a lot of talent on that roster. And just was very impressive. I don't know where he's, we don't like to say where kids are going to play, but I'm telling you, wherever this kid lands at whatever level he's at, he's going to make a coach really happy because he's just so versatile.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I mean, Canisius is loaded with talent. They play in a really tough league, and he's a playmaker all over the field. I mean, guys like him, when you play defensive back, I think defensive back is very undervalued in New York. I think it's one of our strongest position groups by far. I thought when we were, identifying talent in the beginning, asking high school coaches, defensive back stood out from the beginning. There's no drop off. Riley, he can play the game. And I'd love to see him do well at the next level. I wish him the best.
Yeah. All right, let's go up to our next. We got about 4 players left. Next up is Sam Tarangu. I hope I pronounced it.
Tarango.
Tarango,
yeah.
Tarango. All right, Sam, you're watching. I apologize. Mark was here to correct me on that. Class of 2021, 6 foot, 175 pounds at a Brighton High School in Rochester. He plays everywhere on the field, takes direct snaps. As a quarterback, you'll see he reminds me of Donahue from Bronxville. Just does everything. Takes direct snaps on as a QB on designed runs. Plays running back, safety, solid overall athlete, quickness, closing speed, good ball skills. Also plays lacrosse, which I absolutely love. I don't know where he's going to land as a college player. He may decide to play. I hear that he is an outstanding lacrosse player. And I always encourage kids, listen, lacrosse is in the spring. Could you possibly play both, right? If he decided, hey, I want to try to, go to a lacrosse school and play football at the same time. Archbishop Stepanek has a player that's going out to Utah to play lacrosse, and he'll be on the football field as well. But I mean, just an incredible athlete, just overall, and was just very impressed with him. Tough kid, and I really would have loved to see a kid like him at the showcase because I think it could have benefited him to see how he performs in certain drills, how he moves, and how he performs in one-on-ones. Mark, your thoughts?
I mean, Sam is a grinder. He's a gym rat. He's one of the strongest pound for pound guys in the team. Bottom line is you want to stop to Brighton High School, meet their coaches, see how professional they are, how serious they take the game of football. That entire staff could be a college staff tomorrow. And it shows with how their players are prepared to play the game of football. Sam is an example of that. He completely embodies the program, loves the game, gives it his all, leads his teammates, emotional. He's going to play the game. Where he plays so many spots. Where is he going to play? Running back, wide receiver, defensive back? I don't know. He takes care of his business on the field. He takes care of his business off the field. He's a top prospect.
Yeah. Really would have enjoyed seeing him play or seeing him perform at the showcase. All right, moving on. Next up is Kamal Clark, class of 2022, out of St. Francis High School. Here, the one thing that just stood out, and this is to no corner, I don't fault them for this, is the amount of press coverage that they put this kid in. He was and of course we're only watching highlights, and that's why you need to have, full game film to see when a kid is pressed up, but just very impressive, excellent technique as in man press, can get his hands on players, can turn and run with them. Again, he's going to have a couple years to develop. Excellent tackler in the open field, physical kid. Again, I would have loved to have seen him. You'll see right here, he's able to get his hands on him. And these are things that college coaches want to see. I don't know any college coach that says, I'm looking for a zone corner. No, they want to see kids manned up in man-to-man coverage. And some high school coaches or defensive coordinators, based on their scheme, may not run a lot of man. They may want to run a lot of zone or have their guys 6 or 7 yards off looking in at the quarterback and not in man coverage. And that's not uncommon. I know a lot of coaches that prefer not to be in man, and that may be based on the scheme that they're going against. They may be going against teams primarily that are running the football, and they don't feel the need that they have to be in press man, because if you're in press man and that guy goes down the field, you're turning your back and you're running with him. So, you may not see it, but with Kamal, you saw him in a lot of press coverage. A lot of coaches reached out and advocated for him and said, listen, this is a kid that you need to keep your eyes on. And again, we're going to be paying attention and watching him this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops in the future. Mark, your thoughts?
I mean, they're asking him to be a disruptor at the point of attack. I mean, you're a defensive lineman's going to disrupt, an offensive guard at the point of attack, and then you can put a defensive back in a similar spot where you're trying to take the rhythm out of the offensive play. Whether it's a quick screen or some sort of timing throw, he is tasked with taking that out of the game for a quarterback. Unless the quarterback puts a perfect ball in there, which he, by the way, just threw a very good ball. It's hard to get by guys like that. So just having somebody on your roster that has the guts and has the experience to play as physical as Kamal has, I think is outstanding.
Yeah, it is. And I think just to piggyback off of that, I think the one good thing, or what a lot of college coaches want to see, and we don't often see it, is players in man-to-man coverage. Now, realistically, in man-to-man coverage, when you're manned up one-on-one and you see at showcases, the offensive player has the advantage.
Yep.
You're not going to expect a corner to cover for 5+ seconds. That is not realistic at all. And I've heard this at the pro level going down, where coaches are like, they can't stand one-on-ones. Carl Scott, who's the DB coach, I believe down at the University of Alabama, he used in some choice words to describe one-on-ones. He's like, we don't even do it at Alabama. They don't even do it in their drills. They'll do 2-on-1 or like 3-on-2, because they run, when they're running split field coverages, whether or not it's quarters, palms, Meg, mod. He's like, it's not realistic to have one-on-ones all the time. And you got to be able to play. A college coach wants to see a corner play one-on-one. But if your scheme in high school is you just zone turning and dropping off, that's not a bad thing. But they want to see your athleticism one-on-one. But I tell this to everybody that gets all amped up when they see these one-on-one plays. Let me tell you something. There are very few corners that have ever played this game that can cover like glue for 5+ seconds. Darrelle Revis, Deion Sanders, a majority. You put an NFL wide receiver on a top tier corner, with the exception of Stephon Gilmore and a couple of those top tier corners. It is extremely difficult, given the rules of the game and the lack of physicality that's allowed after a certain yardage, to be able to put your hands on a player. It is virtually impossible to be able to stay with that guy. You are only in the NFL expected to cover for a certain amount of time. Anybody that gets hyped and amped over, I always take stopwatches when I'm watching these combines, and I'm just like, they're like, ooh, he beat him. And I'm like, he ran the pattern for 6 seconds. He's not having that much time. You're not going to have that much time. The average time in the pocket in the NFL, ball comes out, is probably 2.5 seconds, and you got to get the ball out. You're not expected to cover that long for that long at the pro level. And the same thing applies. And I see it all the time, Mark, and it gets me upset. They're like, you rarely see defensive players do well in those one-on-ones on combines, because the quarterback is sitting there in a clean pocket. He has no pass rush at all. There's no safety help on the top helping the corner. He's just one-on-one with them at will, and the wide receiver can have a two-way go. That is not how offensive run. It's not you go out there and run whatever you want. That's why you have pass concepts, whether or not it's a smash concept and a guy's running a hitch, and then you got a 7-pole. Like, it's more, and I hate to see that. I'd like to see more showcases have, split the field in half and put 3 over 2 or put 2 over 2, and see how, the quarterback, how difficult it is for the wide receiver. Put a little bit more pressure on the wide receiver, because it's easier said than done watching those one-on-ones, when you're watching the showcase. And in my opinion, it's not realistic. It serves a purpose to a certain extent.
It's catch-22. It's a catch-22, man. I mean, we run a top showcase, but I don't put an unbelievable amount of stock in showcases. We put a lot more stock in full game tape, and what your head coach says about you, the same way I'm assuming a college coach is looking at you. They're looking at, what does your head coach say about you and what your game tape look like. And then the bonus is, okay, I want to get a body type. I want to get a combine time, just for added value, for confirming what they see on tape and what they've heard from the high school coach. Then you add the showcase piece. Okay, I want to see how they compete. What's their body language like? All those little nuances, because it's an imperfect world, as you just said. 5 seconds to throw a football, no pass rush. The receiver's got the advantage, or you got a defensive back who's already offsides, slamming people in the throat that you see on some of these big showcases that are just joke.
Don't get me started with that. And I see it all the time. And the thing is there are high school coaches that are working at the showcases and understand that there's a neutral zone and that you're going to get flagged off sides every single time. I don't understand why they don't just put a center there with the ball and then have the corner, like you would in an actual game, come up. And I would even love to have and see an actual referee there that refs the games. That's like, you are off sides. Like, I don't understand that. You see kids that are literally this close together, and I'm like, dude, you're not going to be able to get your hands on a receiver that easy, being right up 2 inches from him. And I see it every time. Like, who's running the showcase? Are you kidding? You should have somebody right there like, son, you're off sides. You got to back up. Or actually bring in a referee, bring in some high school referees and say, listen, we just need you to come for a couple of hours to help us out or whatever. And we need you to, to literally just be on the line of scrimmage, just like you would during an actual game. Have a center actually hike the ball so these corners come up and they realize, that jam that I got on them, I would have gotten flagged, and it would have been, I would have been off sides for being in the neutral zone. Remember, there is a neutral zone. And during these showcases, not all of them, but I've seen it at some that I'm looking at, I'm like, and then you put it on Twitter and I'm like, every coach is yelling and screaming. Yeah. the guy's
hard show.
offside. You're not.
Show.
That's not realistic at all.
Yeah,
You
no,
don't
it's not. And it's and really, if you again, we've run a showcase before. We were going to run one this year. I still don't hold it in the same esteem as I do your high school coach, their opinion, your game tape. Then when you travel to a college that you're interested in too, right? It's a two-way street. If you're interested in going to that college, you travel to it, you make a good impression at their showcase combine, their tests. That's still better than any independent showcase or combine you could possibly attend, including the one we've run. Yeah. All right. So right now COVID has changed the world for everything. We get it. And it's a very disheartening thing in the short term, but in the long term, the relationship you make with your high school coach and your future college coaches that are recruiting you at all levels, D3, D2, D1, junior college, wherever, how you carry yourself, how what you do, how you compete in those drills, your body language, that still goes above and beyond an independent combine or a showcase. I think they're good. Again, we run them, but I just want you guys to continue developing relationships with your high school coach and your college coaches. All right. I'm beating a dead horse. Let's move on to the next guy.
Awesome. All right. Next up we have is Walensky Nicholas. Now, I found this kid. He was recommended to me by somebody that I know that watches high school football. They said, you need to take a look at this kid. I couldn't believe. I mean, wow. 2022 at a James Madison High School in Brooklyn, 6 foot 180. He looks longer than that.
Love his
Long arms and limbs, just athletic. Reminds me so much of probably a smaller version of Batnat of Erasmus Hall. But I mean, I was like, we hadn't even, at James Madison High School, which I had heard of, there are a lot of kids that are buried in some of these PSAL schools that are not at the bigger programs that can play. I believe he has a couple of Division I offers right now, but just a complete overall athlete, excellent body control, has excellent ability to come up and transition, physical kid, and he is young. 2022 still has this season, given if we actually have a football season in New York, but really has 2 years to develop. And you'll see him here playing offense, just excellent, uses his length well. And I couldn't believe that I found this kid. I needed, he wasn't invited necessarily to our showcase. He wasn't an invite, but he is on our radar this year.
Know about him.
Yeah, me neither, Mark. And this goes to show you, in this world of showcases and identifying players, there is not one Nostradamus that says I identify players because of relationships that I have. I don't care if it's a high school kid. I don't care if it's a parent. Anybody that sees talent that brings it to me, and then I take a look. It's not, we can't cover every single player in the state like we would as if we were NFL, regional scouts going along. Now, we were full-time. We were able to do visits to high schools and do that. You can't find everybody. This kid, friend of mine, was at a couple of these games. He goes to a lot of high school games out in Brooklyn, was like, Brian, you got to take a look at this kid. So I found him on Twitter, and I was like, wow, I did not discover this kid. I don't discover anybody. The parents, coaches, we even have players. You mentioned Nick Alvarado brought up one of his teammates and said, hey, you might take a look at this. It's the same thing when pro scouts are going into schools, right? They don't know. They may read Phil Steele's college football preview and get a sense of who the top players are returning, but they're not identifying these players by osmosis, and they just say, oh, I found and discovered this guy. No, they go into a school and they say, who you got? Hey, you might want to take a look at this guy right here. He doesn't like Alabama. Alabama is infamous for this because they have so many talented players. They typically will have players that don't necessarily get any playing time until later in their career. Alabama has players that are backups that sometimes wind up in a training camp. It's the same thing with high school football, is that when we're trying to find kids, I'm not discovering kids. I'm not taking credit for saying, oh, I'm some guru and I go around. No, I can only be at one game at one time. And if I do see a kid, that's great. But most of the time, it's about the relationships that you have. It's not about somebody saying, well, we discovered and we found this kid. Yeah, we've located and helped.
Not about us at all.
Exactly.
Ain't about us at all.
It's come from other people that have brought those names to us, either as parents or coaches or other high school players. If you have good relationships in this field and you're looking to identify top players or under the radar players, I'm not there in my eye. I hate even using the phrase under the radar. They're not under the radar because guess what? Somebody else saw them and then recommended their name to me. I didn't find them first.
I mean, I think to your point, before we get to our last defensive back, everybody knows top prospects across the entire state, right? Just like everybody knows the top prospects in the NFL.
Yep.
The really good teams develop players that other people maybe didn't value as highly because they didn't fit their scheme, they didn't fit in their locker room, they didn't fit in the classroom and with the professors, whatever it is. The best coaches and programs know how to make the most of who they think fits their system, right? So we're not here to tell you what your system is. Your system is your system.
Exactly.
And you all have your own, everyone has their own unique kind of take on what they're looking for. Who do they want in their locker room talking to their guys at halftime when you're down 14? Is you just want a talented guy, or do you want a gritty guy that's going to speak up and do things? Whatever it is, it's your thing. It's not about the guys like us that are trying to find guys. We think that New York specifically has a ton of those guys. We know who the top New York guys are. I think that's pretty obvious. But there's a bunch of guys in the middle that maybe you didn't know about, and hopefully get the chance to share them with you guys. We love the game. We love our state.
Awesome. All right, man, let's go up. Our last player, this was another player that was recommended to me by Frank Langella, who does the Frank's Finest show. He does an exceptional job on his Twitter page. He gave me this, Gary Phillips at a New Rochelle High School recommended it. This kid is a phenomenal overall athlete, and he kind of got overshadowed by the other all-state player that they had, Parsons, who I believe signed with Rutgers, who was a stud, one of the fastest kids in the state.
Track kid.
Gary Phillips was a kid that was, I had heard of his name, but it was somebody else that was really paying attention to Section 1 football. And I follow Section 1 football, but he was like, listen, he saw him and was like, Brian, you got to take a look at this guy. And he was actually going to be one of our late invites before we decided to, postpone the showcase. He was going to be one of the kids that I was going to try to bring in, but just,
gifted.
2021, 5'7", 160. He plays a lot heavier than that. Willingness to come up and support the run. Good overall body control when tracking the football. Shows speed to carry. There was a wheel route that he ran, and you're just like, this kid is quick. Overall, good athlete. And I think he got kind of overshadowed because New Rochelle is so deep that you have other players that play a significant role, but may not be, the stars of the team in the eyes of fans and other coaches, and they may not get a lot of, carries or action on the ball. But this kid is just he is extremely talented. And I'm not going to call him, hidden. He has talent. You see that hit right there is a little high, but I'm looking forward. It's going to be very important for a kid like this to have a season and to get some more tape, because he is going to play in college. I'm not going to say where I think he's going to play again. That's not my place. But he was one of those kids that I was just like, yeah, we had some talent, but when I saw him on tape, and he's been working out, those guys at New Rochelle put in a lot of time. They have a new coach there. I'm looking forward there. New Rochelle is a stone throw away from me, and we're crossing our fingers. Hopefully we're going to have a season. But I think for showcases and combines, it's a good opportunity for kids like that to come and kind of show a little bit of their athleticism, which you saw on tape. But I was really excited about him. Walensky and him and Kamal Clark that were on, the bottom of this list were kids that I was like, when we started getting up into the 90s, close to, the 100 mark for our selections, these kids were on my radar. Now, 2 of them were 2022s where I was like, listen, who would have been the priority to get in for this year? It would have been Gary Phillips. And I think he would have surprised a lot. And he's on a state championship team. Sometimes that happens. You're like, he's not in a small school out in the middle of nowhere in a lower class. He is on a state championship team. People in Section 1 know who he is. But sometimes just kids just kind of get, they kind of get lost. And you're just like, all right, he had he was playing with one of the fastest kids in Section 1, and sometimes they just kind of their talent, doesn't it doesn't get shown, or sometimes it can kind of get buried in when you have a deep roster like New Rochelle.
Brian, did we cover Darwin Fenor?
I think that we at a Valley Stream. Nope, we did not. We got to do him.
Yeah, he's good. All right, hold on.
And I have him right up here. He was after Javon.
All right, we're good.
Yeah. So Darwin Fenor is again another one of these corners that we had that is sick. He's 6'2", 190 pounds. Just a physical kid. I mean, woo! I could see him playing outside backer. I don't know what his, genetically, if his body type is going to allow him to put on weight, but you see him get up the ball. Yeah. He plays a lot bigger than what he is. I mean, he looks 6'2". He might even be a little bit taller. Long overall frame, aligns primarily on the outside and off or press man. They'll bring him off the edge, a lot as a blitzer. Solid overall athlete, good ball skills, and just a physical player. You'll see him right here in press, and wow, look at that play. I mean, you love to see those are the plays that I'm just like, anytime I see a guy in press coverage, I'm like, because it's very rare that you see guys in press that are extremely physical, and he just uses his length to make plays on the ball. Another kid that I would have loved to see at the showcase, and I didn't mention this before, Valley Stream Central is out in Long Island. Mark, your thoughts?
I mean, he's a spectacular athlete. Good frame. I mean, highly recruited. His head coach reached out to us months ago. I mean, almost really at the conclusion of the Power 50, it was just like, hey, you got to take a look at, one of our guys. And, when you see a guy with his frame and his wingspan and his ability to disrupt in the pass rush, in coverage, in the run game, he's going to find a home. I mean, I believe he's got a top shelf offer from, I want to say Syracuse. Am I right about that?
I think so. I mean, we'll go and double check.
Let's check his offers. What offers does he have? Darwin.
Yeah, take a look. I mean, while you're taking a look again, he's in press coverage right here, and you just love to see a kid that's versatile. In today's game, when you have a corner that can go out on the outside and cover one-on-one and press man, and then be able to come inside in the box and provide run support, you're just a disruptor. And I don't know where he's going to end up. He's 6'2", 6'3". He's easily going to put on weight and end up being 210 plus, and be one of those kind of hybrid guys where you can bring him down into the box.
I don't see an offer from Syracuse, by the way, so I stand corrected. I'm not sure if I have his offer list here, but I don't know if he has offers. I just did a really quick check on Twitter, but I like Darwin. I think he's a special player. All right, hey, you're at Cornell University, or you're at a college, a fake college, I don't care, and you've got to sign and offer a defensive back right now. You got 5 seconds out of this group. Who you taking?
Javon Batten.
Ron Batten?
Yep, already had him in my head, and he fits what I think is the hybrid player that's needed in today's game. Like, you have to be versatile. I think he's going to be one of those players that you can put him, in split safety. I think he can play single high as well. Also be able to come down to the slot. And I'm not going to expect him to be able to be a lockdown corner in the slot, but he has the quickness to be able to get his hands on those shiftier guys inside and disrupt their routes. And I think he's going to be able to, once he puts on weight, he's going to be able to come down in the box and play. He could end up playing outside backer as well. So if I'm going to take a guy right now, overall, again, who I would take right now off of the board that has the biggest upside, and there are a lot of kids on here like Fainer, like we said, he could end up being a stud at the Division I level if somebody gives him an opportunity. But if I'm going to take one player off the board and be able to sleep at night with that pick, if I'm a coach, it's going to be Javon. He'll be the first off because I like versatile, long corners that can play and run support, and then be able to have the movement skills to move on the back end as a safety, whether or not that's single high or or a split field.
Great job tonight, Brian, man. It's awesome seeing you again and getting the show back up and running.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. We got one more group left, offensive linemen, which we'll be combining. We'll be putting in tight ends, and that'll wrap up, all of the players that we selected. And, there were a lot of players that we did feature that we were going to either invite this year, or if they were a 2022, they certainly would have been on the radar. All of the players on this list that are 2022s are obviously on the radar and will most likely get invites, for next year's showcase. But thanks again, Mark. As always fun, man. Glad we were able to get, the rest of these corners finished up.
No doubt, man. See you around. See you next time, guys.